My name is Lauren Parker. I'm 29, and I can tell you the exact resale value of every sneaker in my collection faster than I can tell you my own blood pressure. It sounds dramatic, but shoes have always been the one part of my life that made sense. People, messy, relationships, even messier. Sneakers, numbers, condition, history, logical. I'm a project manager for a software company, make decent money, nothing crazy, but enough to justify one very expensive hobby. Over the last 7 years, I've built up a collection of around 60 pairs of rare sneakers. Think 1985 Jordan 1s, Travis Scott's, limited run collabs, all in climate controlled storage with silica packs and labeled boxes. Last time I checked my spreadsheet, the collection was worth around 180K. My boyfriend Ethan used to joke that I loved my Jordans more than I loved him. I used to laugh. Now I'm not so sure he was joking. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for the last year and a half in my apartment. On paper, everything looked good. I paid the bigger share of rent because I made more. He covered utilities and groceries. We split dinners out depending on who picked the place. We had a rhythm, the kind of quiet routine that feels like stability until someone decides it feels like a trap. Last Tuesday night, I was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, cataloging a new edition. A pair of 1985 Chicago Jordan 1s I'd just authenticated. The leather was cracked in all the right places, that perfect off-white patina that only decades can give. I was taking photos for the spreadsheet when the front door opened. "Hey," Ethan called. His voice had that too bright edge I recognized from when he was about to pitch something I wouldn't like. He walked in still in his yoga clothes, t-shirt damp with sweat, hair pushed back, eyes bright. He'd started taking evening yoga classes a few months ago. Said it helped with his anxiety. I didn't question it. If anything, I thought, good for him. Healthy coping mechanisms are rare. "Hey," I said, not looking up from the shoe in my hand. "How was class? Reach enlightenment yet?" He laughed a little too loudly. "Actually, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about." My stomach did a small, inexplicable flip. The sentence, "we need to talk," never leads anywhere fun, and this was its cousin. I set the Jordan down carefully, like it was made of spun sugar, and looked up at him. "Okay, talk." He sat on the couch, took a big breath, like he'd practiced this speech in his head all the way home. "I've been doing a lot of self-work," he started, reflecting, trying to understand who I really am, what I really need. Here we go, I thought, the preamble. "You know Mia?" he added. There it was. I didn't react, but I felt my jaw tense. Mia, his ex-girlfriend, now his yoga buddy, his good friend, who just gets him on a spiritual level. I'd met her exactly once at some mutual friends thing. She was pretty in that effortless influencer way. Soft voice, lots of eye contact, talked about energy and alignment a lot. I'd never accused him of anything. I didn't have proof, just a feeling. That itchy, electric sense that somewhere in the back of his mind, I was plan B. "Yeah," I said carefully. "Your ex, the one from the chakra workshop era." He flinched at the word ex, then forced a smile. "We're just friends now, but she's been opening my eyes to different relationship models." There it was. My heart started beating harder, but my voice stayed even. "Different how?" He swallowed. "She's polyamorous, and we've been talking about how monogamy is kind of a societal construct, you know? Like this thing we're just handed without questioning whether it actually works for who we are." I stared at him. "Ethan," I said slowly, "did you seriously just come home from yoga to tell me monogamy is colonialism or something?" He huffed. "You're making fun of me." "Maybe," I admitted. "Maybe because I feel like there's a bigger sentence you're working up to." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fingers laced. His eyes were almost shining with this weird courage, like he was about to jump off a cliff and wanted me to admire his bravery. "I think," he said, "I need to explore a polyamorous lifestyle." There it was. My first instinct was to laugh in his face. The second was to cry. I did neither. Inside, something cold and sharp slid into place. A small, detached part of me stepped back and started taking notes. "And by explore polyamory," I said, "you mean what exactly?" He rushed into the gap. "Having multiple romantic connections, allowing ourselves to fully experience our capacity for love, not being confined by an outdated model that was built for property and patriarchy, not for actual emotional growth." "Mia's words are yours," I asked. He hesitated just long enough to answer my question. "I mean, we've talked about it," he admitted. But it makes sense, right? I love you, Lauren. That doesn't go away. But I think I have the capacity to love more than one person, to explore connections without limitation. And if I say no? I asked. His eyes hardened just a little. Then I don't know if this relationship is giving me the freedom I need to become my authentic self. There it was, the ultimatum, wrapped in therapy speak and spirituality, scented lightly with eucalyptus and incense. I let the silence sit between us for a few seconds. He fidgeted. I could practically hear the wheels spinning in his head. She's going to cry. She's going to beg. I'll get to look tortured and noble. Okay, I said. His eyebrows shot up. Okay? Yeah, I repeated, shrugging. You want polyamory? Sure, but it goes both ways. He blinked rapidly. What do you mean? I mean, I said, reaching for my phone. You explore your connections. I'll explore mine. Fair's fair, right? He opened and closed his mouth. Lauren, this isn't... I didn't think you'd just agree like that. Why not? I asked, unlocking my phone. You just gave a whole TED talk on freedom. Well, yeah, but we should talk boundaries first. Structures. We can't just... Didn't you literally just say monogamy is a construct and limitations are oppressive? I asked mildly, thumb already moving over the App Store. His eyes dropped to my screen. What are you doing? Exactly what you asked for, I said. Downloading Tinder, then probably Bumble, maybe Hinge if I feel spicy. He looked horrified. Right now? Yes, Ethan, I said, right now. But, he sputtered, I thought we'd start with me and Mia exploring things and then... So this was supposed to be a you first, me never kind of polyamory? I cut in. That's not polyamory. That's you wanting permission to get back with your ex without being the bad guy. His face flushed deep red. It's not about Mia. Sure, I said, hitting install on Tinder. And I collect sneakers because I hate shoes. He raked a hand through his hair. Lauren, I want us to prioritize each other. I don't want you just swiping on random guys for validation. But you can pursue your spiritually aligned, deeply conscious connection with your ex, I finished for him. Got it. That's different, he protested. Of course it is, I murmured, because you're the one doing it. Tinder finished downloading. I opened it, started setting up a profile. Recent photo, me in a black hoodie, holding a pair of off-white Jordan 1s, laughing at something off camera. Casual, but you could see the quality of the shoe and the fact that I took care of myself. Lauren, can you not Ethan started. You said you needed this to be your authentic self, I said lightly. I fully support your authenticity. I'm just making sure mine gets a seat at the table too. He fell quiet, watching me type. Bio. Project manager, sneaker nerd, sarcastic but house-trained, looking for someone who knows the difference between attention and intention. By the time I finished filling out the basics, I could feel his panic vibrating off him like static. We haven't even talked about what's okay and what isn't. He tried again. Like sleepovers, emotional connections, hierarchy. You wanted no limitations, I reminded him. Isn't that the point? That's not what I meant, he said weakly. I looked up, met his eyes, and smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then maybe, I said softly, you should have thought a little harder before you gambled our relationship on Mia's philosophy. I started swiping. Notifications popped up almost immediately. Match, match, match. Apparently, being decent-looking, financially stable, and not spiritually condescending was still in demand. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ethan's expression shift from righteous conviction to something much closer to fear. For the first time that night, I felt a tiny, wicked spark of satisfaction. You wanted the door open, I thought. Fine, let's see what happens when it doesn't swing the way you expected. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing on the nightstand. For half a second, I wondered if Ethan had already found someone enlightened and emotionally available to match with him overnight. Then I remembered. He didn't even download an app. His grand spiritual awakening involved exactly one woman and one woman only. Mia. I rolled over, grabbed my phone, and blinked at the screen. 8 new matches. By the time I finished brushing my teeth and making coffee, that number had climbed to 14. Apparently, being a reasonably attractive woman with a half-decent bio and a photo that didn't scream crop-top thirst trap was enough to set the algorithm on fire. I scrolled through profiles as I stirred sugar into my mug. Software engineer, financial analyst, high school teacher, photographer. Then I hit his profile. Jason, 31, model, fitness trainer, part-time sneakerhead. I own too many pairs of Air Max and not enough houseplants. His main photo was him in a plain white t-shirt and jeans, sitting on some concrete steps, laughing at something off camera. Clean jawline, soft brown eyes, tattoos visible on his forearms. In the third photo, he was holding a pair of Jordan 4s. I smirked, hit like. It was an instant match. Of course it was. Behind me, I heard Ethan shuffle out of the bedroom. I didn't turn around immediately. The kitchen suddenly felt like a stage. "Morning," he said, voice scratchy. "Morning," I replied, still looking at my phone. He poured himself coffee, kept glancing over, like he wanted to ask, but was afraid of the answer. "Sleep okay?" I asked. "Not really," he admitted. "I was thinking about everything." "Polyamory?" I asked. "Or Mia?" He flinched. "Both." I finally looked up at him. "You two talk after class?" "Not really," he said quickly, too quickly. "We're going to process things, slowly, organically." I nodded like I believed him. My screen lit up with the new message. "Jason. Okay, I'm curious. The Jordans in your pic, are those off-whites or just really clean reps?" I smiled, quickly typed back, "Authentic. I can send you the authentication pics if you promise not to cry at the price." His reply came almost instantly. "If you're into legit pairs, we're already friends. Coffee sometime?" I saved the message, didn't answer yet. "So," Ethan said awkwardly, leaning against the counter, "how's the app thing going?" "Busy," I said simply. He frowned. "Busy how?" "Matches. Conversations." I took a sip of coffee. Turns out men respond well to a woman who can tell the difference between 3 similar-looking Jordans. He tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "You're really going for it, huh?" "You opened the door," I said lightly. "I'm just walking through it." He stared into his mug like it might offer guidance. "I was thinking," he started slowly, "maybe we should set some guidelines, just to keep things safe. Like, we don't rush into physical stuff. We prioritize each other. No sleepovers at first." "At first?" I echoed. "So you can sleep over with Mia later, once it feels evolved enough?" He bristled. "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant," I replied. He blew out a breath. "Lauren, this isn't supposed to be punitive. It's about growth." "Then grow," I said. "You have full freedom to pursue Mia. I'll pursue whoever respects me enough not to make freedom a threat." My phone buzzed again. "Jason. No pressure, but there's a spot near downtown that does amazing pour-over and has a wall of old sneaker art. If you're free today, I'll bring my most embarrassing Air Max story." I typed 2 p.m. He sent a thumbs up and a coffee emoji. I slid my phone face down on the counter and looked at Ethan. "I've got a coffee date at 2, I said. His head snapped up. "Already?" "Yeah," I said. "Guy works in tech, seems normal, knows what sneakers are. Low bar, I know, but we're starting somewhere." He swallowed. "You're seriously going today?" "Is there a waiting period I missed in the polyamory handbook?" I asked. "Should I have asked Mia to sign off on my timeline?" He glared. "That's not fair." "Neither is changing the rules 3 years in," I said calmly, "but here we are." He didn't answer. By 1:45, I was standing outside the cafe, heart beating way faster than it should for someone who routinely negotiated deadlines with vice presidents. The cafe was exactly the kind of pretentious place I loved. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, a chalkboard with drinks named after constellations, and yes, a wall lined with framed prints of vintage sneaker ads. When Jason walked in, I recognized him immediately. Taller than I expected, light stubble, that same offhanded, unforced ease in his posture. He spotted me, smiled, and the knot in my chest loosened a little. "Lauren?" he asked. "Depends," I said. "Are you the guy who admits to owning more Air Max than dress shoes?" He grinned. "Guilty." We ordered coffee. He asked about my collection like he actually cared, not like it was some quirky little phase he tolerated. When I told him about my climate-controlled second bedroom, his eyes widened. "You're telling me you have a sneaker vault?" he said. "Like a dragon hoard, but for shoes?" "Yes," I said, "except I don't sit on them. I catalog them." He laughed, genuinely delighted. "That's the most attractive sentence I've heard in weeks." I should have felt guilty. Some part of me did. But another part, the one Ethan had cornered with his authentic self speech, felt seen. We talked about work, bad dates, family, the weird little ways the internet can make strangers feel familiar. 2 hours passed without me noticing. When my phone buzzed, I ignored it. Eventually, I glanced down. 3 messages from Ethan. "Hey, how's it going?" "Where are you now?" "Can you call me when you're done? Something happened." My stomach tightened. "I should go soon," I said reluctantly. Apparently my life has drama now. Jason smiled. "If it's okay to say this after one coffee, I'd like to see you again. Maybe dinner? Somewhere that doesn't smell like burnt espresso?" He was easy to like. Too easy. Dinner sounds good, I said. There's a new Italian place downtown. I've been wanting to try it. Perfect, he said. Tomorrow night? I hesitated just for a second, then nodded. Tomorrow, I confirmed. When I walked through the apartment door, Ethan was pacing the living room, phone in his hand. You're back, he said, like he wasn't sure I'd actually return. Coffee date, not a portal to another dimension, I said, hanging up my bag. What's going on? He ran a hand over his face. He looked rattled, brittle. I talked to Mia, he said. I waited. At the studio, he continued, after class. I told her I was exploring polyamory, and I asked if she wanted to, explore something with me. He said it like he was narrating a scene where he'd been very brave. And? I asked. His jaw flexed. She said no. I blinked. Just no? She said, he muttered, mimicking her soft tone, Ethan, you're my friend. You're my student. I care about you, but I'm not interested in you that way. He collapsed onto the couch, shoulders slumped. She said she thought we were just talking theory, that she never meant to encourage anything. Something icy and vindicated stirred in my chest. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. You blew up our relationship because your ex talked to you about polyamory, and when you finally shot your shot, she friend-zoned you. He flinched. Don't say it like that. How else should I say it? I asked. You wanted to open the relationship for one specific person who doesn't want you. His eyes filled with sudden hot tears. I made a mistake, okay? I watched him for a moment. This was the reaction I was supposed to have had. Shaken, regretful, desperate. I don't want polyamory anymore, he blurted. It's too much. It's confusing. Let's just go back to how we were. Close it. Forget this happened. I almost laughed. You can't unring a bell, Ethan, I said quietly. His head snapped up. Why not? I'm saying I was wrong. I'm saying I choose you. Isn't that what matters? No, I said. What matters is you didn't choose me first. You chose her. You only chose me when she chose to stay out of it. That's not fair, he said, voice cracking. I thought she and we had this connection. I misread it. And in the process, I said, you risked everything we actually had. He stood up, coming closer. Okay, yes, I screwed up. I admit it. So let's fix it. Close the apps. Cancel your dates. We can pretend this never happened. I took a step back. No, I said. His face crumpled. Lauren, please, I don't want you seeing other guys. You didn't have a problem with seeing other women, I reminded him. You only have a problem now because your plan A fell through. That's not true, he protested. Really? I asked. If Mia had said yes today, would you still be standing here asking to close things? Or would you be planning your first deep connection date with her? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Silence answered for him. I have a dinner date tomorrow, I said. I'm not canceling. You're doing this to punish me, he whispered. I'm doing this because you changed the rules, I said, my voice steady. You wanted freedom. I'm just finally using mine. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Who is he? He demanded. His name is Jason, I said. He's a model. He likes sneakers. He made me laugh more in 2 hours than you have in the last month. His expression curdled into jealousy. A model? He spat. So what, you're trading me in for some pretty boy who likes your shoes? Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just spending time with someone who didn't ask to downgrade me to primary partner while he chased his ex. His hands balled into fists at his sides. You're seriously going to go on that date? After everything? After everything, I echoed. Later, in our bedroom, I pulled an overnight bag from the closet and set it on the bed. Ethan stood in the doorway, watching me fold clothes. You're not really planning to stay over, are you? He asked, voice small. I folded a t-shirt slowly. I don't know, I said honestly. I'll see how it feels. He swallowed hard. I can't handle this. You thought I'd be the sad, faithful anchor while you explored your options, I said, zipping the bag. Turns out I have options too. He stared at the overnight bag like it was a bomb I'd placed between us. And maybe, in a way, it was. Not because of what might happen tomorrow, but because of what he'd already detonated without thinking I'd ever walk away from the blast. Stop. Before Jason came over the next day, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I deep cleaned the sneaker room. Not out of pettiness, not to show off, because it calmed me. While the rest of my life felt like an emotional landslide, the sneaker room stayed solid. Predictable. Each pair exactly where I left it. Every label aligned. Every box sealed just right. It was the one corner of my world Ethan couldn't scramble with a single conversation about connection building. I'd just finished wiping down a display case when I heard the front door open. Lauren? Jason's warm, easy voice floated down the hall. In here, I called. He stepped into the room and stopped dead, eyebrows rising. eyes widening. Okay, he said. When you said you had a collection, I thought you meant like a collection, not a museum. I laughed. This is the result of 7 years of bad decisions and good timing. He walked in slowly, reverently, like he had entered a cathedral. I'm not even touching anything, he said. Not unless you give permission. Good instinct, I said. Some of these are worth more than my car. Jason shook his head in genuine admiration. You did all this yourself? Every pair, I said. Every box. Every resale negotiation. Every authentication. It's my happy place. It looks like it, he murmured. He walked along the shelves, hands clasped behind his back like a museum docent. When he stopped in front of the Chicago ones, he let out a low whistle. These, he said softly, are insane. 1985, I replied. Original release. I found them through a collector who was finally ready to retire. Jason smiled and nodded. Okay, I get it now. Get what? How this room tells you who someone is, he said. You put love into this. Time. Work. That matters. His tone was so sincere, it made my chest tighten slightly. Behind us, I heard footsteps, slow, purposeful. Ethan. I didn't turn around. I didn't move at all. Jason, sensing the shift, straightened slightly, but stayed polite, respectful. Hey, Ethan said, voice strained. I didn't know you were bringing someone over. You were at work, I said, still facing the shelf. And we're in an open relationship, remember? Or we were. Until 5 minutes after your ex turned you down. Jason looked between us, not intruding, not running, just present, more grounded than Ethan had been in months. Ethan crossed his arms, jaw tense. So you just show the guy our place? It's my place, I said calmly. My name on the lease. My rent pays for this room, this temperature control, these shelves, these shoes. Ethan's eyes flicked around the room. You're really doing this. You're really trying to replace me with... With what? I asked. Someone who didn't hand me an ultimatum wrapped in spirituality? Someone who doesn't confuse a crush with a cosmic awakening? Someone who doesn't weaponize therapy language because he wants to sleep with his ex? Jason cleared his throat lightly. Maybe I should... No, I said, shaking my head. Stay. You didn't do anything wrong. Ethan scoffed. Right, of course. He's perfect, isn't he? I turned to face Ethan for the first time. He's honest, I said. That's a start. Jason shifted, respectful. Look, man, I'm not trying to intrude on anything. Lauren's a grown woman. She invited me. That's it. Ethan's mouth twisted. How noble. Ethan, I said evenly, don't pick a fight with someone who isn't fighting you. He glared at both of us for a long moment, then spun and left the room abruptly, muttering something about needing air. The tension ebbed as his footsteps faded. Jason exhaled. Well, that was a moment. Welcome to the last 48 hours of my life, I said, rubbing my temples. He gave me a soft, sympathetic smile. Hey, you okay? Yes, I said, and I meant it. Surprisingly. Good, he said. Then his eyes drifted toward the Travis Scott ones. Because I have so many questions about these. Ethan avoided the apartment for the rest of the evening. He returned later, somewhere past midnight. I heard him come in quietly, as if sneaking into someone else's home. Maybe, emotionally, he was. The next morning, his tactics shifted again. He made breakfast. He played soft music. He tried to act normal. But the tension sat between us like a third person. As I poured coffee, he cleared his throat. We need to talk. I didn't react. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't sigh. I simply said, okay. He took a breath. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But you're pushing things too far. You're making this relationship impossible. I set my mug down. No, Ethan. I'm responding to what you did. You don't have to respond like this. What would you prefer? I asked calmly. That I stayed home and cried? Stayed loyal while you explored deep emotional bonds with Mia? He winced at the name. Don't make it sound like that. It was like that, I said. You wanted polyamory because you wanted her. Not for philosophical reasons, not because of some personal journey, because you thought your ex was interested. He exhaled shakily, eyes glossy. I was stupid. Can't you forgive stupid? I can forgive mistakes, I said, but not choices. And Ethan, you made a choice. He pressed his hands to his face. I don't want this. I don't want you seeing someone else. I don't want to lose you. I watched him for several long seconds. Maybe an older version of me, the version from months ago, would have folded here. He looked genuinely devastated. There was a time when his tears felt like an earthquake, back when I thought hurting him meant hurting myself. But now everything he did felt like a mirror he held up to me. the moment he expected me to stay small. You assumed, I said quietly, that I wouldn't have options, that I'd wait for you, that I'd be the stable home base while you chased your ex attention. His face went red. That's not what I thought. You didn't think, I corrected gently. Not about me. Before he could reply, my phone buzzed. A message from Jason. Dinner tonight still on? Ethan saw the name flash across the screen. He looked like someone had punched him in the ribs. You're really going, he whispered. Yes, I said. He stood abruptly. Then I'm done. I can't handle this. I don't want an open relationship. I don't want polyamory. If you're going to keep doing this, I'm leaving. I nodded once. Okay. He froze. Okay? If you want to leave, I said, you can. He stared at me, stunned. You'd rather keep seeing other people than be with me? He asked, voice trembling. You'd rather keep wanting other people than be honest with me, I replied. His jaw clenched. So that's it. You don't love me anymore. I love the version of you who chose me first, I said, not the one who tried to demote me to plan B. I picked up my mug, calm as the surface of still water. He walked away without another word. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The day after Ethan stormed out, he came back. Not because he'd reflected or grown or realized he'd been unfair. No, he came back because he'd spiraled. I heard the keys rattling at the front door harder than necessary, the way someone does when they want you to know they're upset before they even walk in. I was on the couch scrolling through sneaker auctions when the door finally swung open. Ethan stepped inside with an expression that sat somewhere between wounded puppy and simmering resentment. We need to talk, he said. Again. I closed my laptop, slowly, calmly. Okay. He paced the living room twice, rubbing the back of his neck. His hair was messy, like he'd been pulling at it. Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy, he blurted. Ah, there it was. Not guilt, not self-awareness, just social consequences. Who's everyone? I asked. My mom, he said immediately. My sister, a few of our friends. Mia saw me after class and asked if I was okay. She looked, I don't know, disappointed, like I'd done something wrong. You did, I said bluntly. He scowled. You told everyone. You spun it to make me look like a villain. I blinked slowly. I posted nothing, showed nothing, said nothing. Then how did they know? He demanded. Maybe because you opened your relationship with me, I said, to chase your ex, got turned down, and tried to close it again only when it stopped benefiting you? That's not what happened. Which part? I asked. The part where you told me monogamy was a patriarchal cage, or the part where you cried because Mia didn't want you? He shot me a glare sharp enough to cut air. You're being cruel. I'm being accurate. His voice rose. Lauren, I'm serious. My parents think I'm losing it. Mia barely wanted to look at me. My friends are confused. It's a mess. And whose fault is that? I asked. He stopped. His breathing hitched. For half a second, I watched him actually try to calculate an answer where he wasn't responsible. He couldn't find one. So instead, he switched tactics, like he always did. He softened his voice. I just need us back, he whispered. Us. Before all this. Before the apps. Before Jason. Before polyamory. You can't rewind a breaking point, I said. You didn't even try to fight for us, he shot back. You just agreed. You agreed to it instantly, like you were waiting for a chance to walk away. My voice stayed quiet, steady. No, Ethan. I agreed because I saw exactly what you were doing, and I didn't want to humiliate myself begging you not to leave me for your ex. I chose my dignity. The words hit him hard. He took a shaky breath, trying a different angle. Okay, he said, regaining composure. Then, if you won't close the relationship, then we need rules. Rules? I echoed. Yes, he said, stepping closer. Like you can date, but no sleepovers, and no emotional intimacy, and no bringing them here. And so you want me to have a fake open relationship, I said, while you get to chase real connections. His jaw clenched. I don't want you falling for him. Then maybe, I said lightly, you shouldn't have insisted I look elsewhere for connection. He slammed his hand against the counter. I swear to God, Lauren, you're doing this on purpose. I raised an eyebrow. Doing what? Living the exact arrangement you demanded? He froze. Then, desperate now, he pulled out the nuclear option. He pointed toward my closed sneaker room door. You care more about those stupid shoes than about saving our relationship. I felt something in me go cold. Do not, I said quietly, turn this into a competition between you and the one thing in my life you haven't ruined in the last week. He scoffed. It's pathetic. You treat that room like a shrine, like it matters more than... It does, I cut in. He froze. What? He whispered. It does matter more, I said, because those sneakers never lied to me. never manipulated me, never dangled someone else's attention over my head and called it spiritual growth. His mouth opened, closed. He didn't know how to fight that. So he went for chaos. You know what? He snapped. Fine. You want to do whatever you want? Then so will I. Be my guest, I said. He stormed down the hall. A beat later, I heard the unmistakable sound of a doorknob rattling. My sneaker room doorknob. The one I had locked. Ethan, I called warningly. The rattling grew louder. Then, click. He'd found the key. My stomach dropped as the door swung open. Boxes shuffled. Cardboard scraped. Something toppled. Ethan, I shouted, running down the hall. I burst into the room and felt my heart seize. Shoe boxes were on the floor, tissue paper everywhere. Display cases pulled open. He hadn't broken anything, yet, but he was making it clear he could. He could take the one thing that still gave me peace and tear it apart just because I didn't let him control the narrative anymore. What the hell are you doing? I yelled. He turned, breathing hard. I wanted your attention. By threatening something I've spent 7 years building? They're just shoes, he screamed. They're my shoes, I shot back, and you don't get to touch them. He stared at me, wild, angry, unraveling. Then he exhaled violently, shoved a box aside with his foot, and stormed past me out of the room. I stood there, swallowing hard, hands shaking. He hadn't broken anything, but he'd shown me he was willing to, and that was enough. I spent the next hour documenting everything, every box out of place, every drawer pulled open, every sign of chaos. I locked the room again with a new deadbolt, hid the key, took photos, sent them to a folder called If Ethan Escalates. By the time I stepped back into the living room, Ethan was sitting on the couch, eyes red, anger replaced by something almost hollow. You weren't supposed to call my bluff, he said softly. I stared at him. That, I replied, is exactly why I did. He looked down at his hands. And for the first time since this started, I saw something like fear in his face. He was losing control. And worse, he finally realized I wasn't afraid to let him go. Ethan avoided me the rest of the evening, drifting around the apartment like a ghost who still hadn't figured out he was dead. I didn't chase him. Didn't ask what was wrong. Didn't try to soothe him back into sanity. I'd spent too many years being emotional bubble wrap for men who broke things they couldn't fix, especially themselves. By the next morning, the apartment felt like a tense ceasefire. Ethan moved quietly, cautiously, as if waiting for me to erupt. Funny thing was, the more he spiraled, the calmer I became. When someone shows you who they are, it's surprisingly easy, liberating even, to stop clinging to who you wanted them to be. I was making coffee when Ethan emerged from the bedroom, eyes dark-circled and jaw clenched. Lauren. His tone was fragile and angry at the same time. We need to talk, again. I'm listening, I said, stirring sugar into my cup. He swallowed hard. You can't keep seeing him. Jason? I asked, feigning mild confusion. Why not? Because this isn't balanced, he snapped. I'm here suffering, trying to fix things, and you're going on dates like everything's fine. I set my spoon down slowly. Ethan, I said, you didn't want balance. You wanted permission to chase your ex without consequences. He stiffened. Why do you keep bringing up Mia? That's done. Then stop using her philosophies to justify your decisions. It wasn't her, he began. Ethan, I cut in, you came home quoting her word for word. Monogamy is a societal construct limiting potential, isn't exactly your natural vocabulary. His face reddened. You're twisting things. I sipped my coffee. Am I? His eyes flashed. Yes, and you're being intentionally difficult. That's rich coming from someone who dumped spiritual jargon on me to get a hall pass for his ex. He threw his hands up. You're impossible. No, I corrected him gently. I'm aware. He paced back and forth, hands tugging at his hair again. I talked to Mia last night, he said suddenly, looking at me like he expected this to be dramatic news. And, I asked, she said I should respect your process. I blinked. Did she now? She also said that if I'm uncomfortable with you dating, then maybe I don't understand polyamory as much as I think. I stared at him. Then I burst out laughing, like actual laughter. Bent over, hand on counter laughing. Ethan scowled. It's not funny. Oh my God, I said between breaths. Mia rejected you and corrected your polyamory philosophy. He crossed his arms. This isn't a joke, Lauren. It absolutely is, I said. A tragic comedy, but still a comedy. He glared daggers at me. So what? You're just going to keep dating this guy? Yes, I said simply. He swallowed thickly. Then I'm leaving. I nodded. Okay. Something in his expression cracked. He wasn't expecting that. You're not even going to try to stop me? He asked, voice trembling. No, I replied calmly. You opened the door first. He didn't leave. Not emotionally. Not physically. Not at all. Instead, he changed tactics again. The manipulation began like clockwork. 1. The guilt trip. An hour after threatening to leave, Ethan knocked softly on the bedroom door. When I opened it, he looked small, wounded. I talked to my mom, he whispered. She's worried. She said losing you would destroy me. I'm sorry she feels that way, I replied. You don't care? He asked. I care, I said. I just don't let guilt make my decisions. His jaw tightened. You've become so cold. No, I said. I've become clear. He had no answer for that. 2. The negotiation. At lunch, he tried again. Okay, he said, sitting across from me with a negotiating face I'd normally see during his job interviews. What if we compromise? I'm listening. You can date, he said nervously, but no physical stuff, and no sleepovers, and no emotional bonding, and... Ethan, I said slowly, you're describing monogamy again. No, I'm not, he insisted. I'm describing boundaries. You didn't set any boundaries when you wanted to pursue Mia, I reminded him. That's different. How? I asked. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know, he muttered. My point exactly. 3. The sabotage, part 2. I got home from work the next day and instantly felt something was wrong. The sneaker room door, my carefully bolted, newly locked sanctuary, was closed. But something felt off. The air, the silence. I unlocked the deadbolt, opened the door, and froze. He hadn't broken anything, but he had moved everything. Every box, every display, every pair. Disorder everywhere. My stomach dropped. Ethan! I shouted. He appeared in the doorway, arms folded, face blank. I was cleaning. No, I said, voice trembling with contained fury. You were sending a message. He shrugged. You spend more time in here than with me. Because this room never tries to manipulate me. His eyes narrowed. I wanted to see if you'd even notice. I notice everything, I exploded. He stepped back, startled. For 7 years, I continued, this room has been the one place where no one disrespected what mattered to me. Until you weaponized it. He looked genuinely surprised. I didn't think it would upset you this much. You invaded the only space you can't control, I said coldly. Of course it upset me. He swallowed. I just wanted to feel important again. And you chose this? I asked. Sabotaging something I love? I didn't sabotage anything. You threatened it. No, he whispered. I threatened what you care about to get your attention. And he said it like it made sense. Like it was a totally normal sentence. Like it wasn't a confession of emotional terrorism. I stared at him. Silent. Cold. Done. Ethan, I said quietly, this ends now. His eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, I said, you have until tomorrow to move out. No, he said immediately, voice rising. No, I'm not leaving. You are, I said. Your choices, your consequences. What about us? He asked, voice cracking. What about fixing things? There is no us to fix, I replied. You broke something you can't put back. I stepped past him and left the sneaker room. He didn't follow. For once, he didn't argue. He just stood there in the hall, breathing hard, staring at the shoes he had tried, twice, to use as leverage. And he finally understood. He couldn't manipulate me anymore. Not with guilt, not with fear, not with chaos. And for the first time, I realized something so clean, so sharp, so freeing. This relationship wasn't dying. It had already died. I was simply burying it. Ethan did not sleep that night. I could hear him pacing. Slow, restless footsteps traveling from the kitchen to the hallway, pausing outside the sneaker room, then retreating again, over and over, like he was orbiting the reality he didn't want to accept, trying to will it into something else. I slept surprisingly well. Clarity is its own kind of sedative. In the morning, I found him sitting at the dining table, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. He looked like someone bracing for a collision he'd caused but still hoped to dodge. He didn't say anything at first. He waited for me to speak, and that alone told me everything. Morning, I said, pouring coffee. He flinched at the normalcy of it. Lauren, he finally whispered. Can we talk? I turned, leaning against the counter, mug in hand. We've talked. For days. I've been more patient than you deserved. He winced. So that's it? He asked. You're really throwing us away? I'm not throwing anything, I said. I'm letting go of someone who already walked out, emotionally, weeks ago. He stood abruptly, hands trembling. I didn't walk out. I wanted to grow. I wanted us to grow. You wanted Mia, I corrected gently. And when she didn't want you, you tried to claw your way back into my life out of panic, not love. He shook his head violently. That's not true. Ethan, I said softly, look at me. He did. Barely. You and I both know, I said, that if Mia had said yes, you wouldn't be standing here begging me to try again. The truth hit him like a shove. His mouth opened, closed, and then the fight drained out of him, completely. Like someone had pulled tension straight from his bones. His voice dropped to almost nothing. You're right? I didn't gloat. I didn't soften. I just nodded. I know. He sat heavily on the couch, covering his face with his hands. A long silence hung between us. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said, but intention doesn't undo impact. He stared at the carpet like it held answers. I thought you'd stay. I thought you'd forgive anything. That was your mistake, I said gently, not mine. His chin trembled. So what now? You kick me out like I'm some villain? Some monster? No, I said. I'm asking you to leave because this relationship has become something toxic for both of us. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. He whispered, I still love you. And for the first time, I believed him. But love isn't always enough, not the way he practiced it. Ethan, I said softly, you loved me as long as I stayed small, as long as I stayed safe, as long as I never looked elsewhere. He blinked, stunned. You didn't think I could live a life outside of you, I continued. You didn't think I could find someone who actually admired me, wanted me, chose me. He swallowed hard. Jason, I interrupted, isn't the issue. The issue is you didn't think I'd have options. He sagged. I was stupid, he whispered. No, I said, you were selfish and scared and human. He looked up at me. Can we fix it? No, I said simply. Not cruel. Just honest. He took in a shaky breath. So you're really done? I nodded. I'm done. There was grief in his eyes, real grief, but also a strange clarity, like he finally understood that this wasn't a negotiation anymore. I stepped away to get dressed for work. When I returned, Ethan was still on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. I'll pack today, he said quietly. Be gone by tonight. Thank you, I said. He nodded once, eyes shining. As I walked to the door, he called after me. Lauren? I turned. Do you love him? He asked. Meaning Jason. Meaning, did he lose me to someone else? I met his gaze. No, I said honestly. Not yet. He nodded numbly, bracing himself. But, I added, I might. He closed his eyes as if the words physically hurt. I walked out, and it felt like stepping into clean air after weeks of breathing smoke. When I came home that evening, Ethan's boxes were stacked by the door. He was in the hallway, dragging a suitcase toward the elevator. His dad was there, stern, silent, arms crossed in quiet disapproval. Ethan paused when he saw me. Hey, he said softly. I nodded. Hey. He looked around the apartment one last time. His eyes lingered on the sneaker room door, locked, bolted, impenetrable. Then he looked at me. I'm sorry, he said, for everything. I nodded again. Take care of yourself, Ethan. He swallowed, blinking fast. Yeah, he whispered. You too. His dad ushered him forward. The elevator doors closed, and the apartment felt lighter, like someone had opened a window that had been sealed shut for too long. No shouting, no manipulation, no walking on emotional eggshells. Just peace. The first real peace I'd had in months. I walked to the sneaker room, unlocked the new deadbolt, and stepped inside. Everything was exactly where I'd left it. Silent, ordered, mine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Jason. Thinking about you. Dinner tomorrow? I smiled. Typed back. Yes. Then closed the sneaker room door behind me. Not to hide, but to prepare. Because leaving someone doesn't mean losing. Sometimes it means finally choosing yourself. I didn't expect Ethan to be truly gone the next morning. I expected lingering. I expected forgotten chargers, conveniently timed accidental visits, dramatic texts, or long meandering voice messages about closure. But no, he was gone. Completely. The apartment was quiet in a way that felt unfamiliar, like the silence after a storm, when everything is still dripping and settling, but the danger has passed. For the first time in months, I breathed without tension in my spine. The next few days were smooth, almost eerily so. I went to work, answered emails, reorganized my sneaker spreadsheet, and cleaned the apartment just because it finally felt like my space again. Jason and I kept talking effortlessly. Nothing forced. Nothing tangled in insecurity or spiritual jargon. Just two people who liked each other, who didn't make a relationship feel like a performance. But peace never lasts long when someone like Ethan is involved. On Thursday, my phone lit up with a barrage of notifications. Group chats, DM requests, texts from friends I hadn't heard from in weeks. I clicked on the first one. Lauren, what did you do? Then, he's posting crazy stuff about you. Then, is any of that true? A slow, cold dread crept up my spine. I opened Instagram, and there it was. A long, self-pitying story posted to Ethan's page. A paragraph of emotional vomit written in the tone of a man who thought vulnerability was a performance art. Sometimes the person you love destroys your trust. Sometimes they manipulate you with money and material possessions. Sometimes they cheat and call it freedom. I'm heartbroken. I'm broken, actually. Pray for me. Below that, another slide. Narcissistic abuse is real. Don't ignore the red flags like I did. Then, sneakers won't love you back. People will, unless they're Lauren. I stared at the screen, then laughed. Out loud, a short, sharp, incredulous sound. I clicked to the viewer list, hundreds of views, mostly his friends, some mutual acquaintances, a handful of people I recognized from work. He'd tagged me, subtly, not with my handle, he wasn't that bold, but with an emoji of a sneaker, a broken heart, and a woman's silhouette. Coward. I exited the story and opened my texts. One from my friend Holly. Girl, did your ex seriously just say you cheated on him? Another from my coworker Nick. WTF. Should I unfollow him or are y'all working it out? Another from my boss, of all people. Hope everything is okay. Let me know if you need time off. Time off. Over Ethan. I exhaled through my nose, almost amused. Okay. He wanted to go nuclear? Fine. I knew exactly which button to press. I went to my photo gallery, found the single most damning screenshot I had saved. The conversation from the night Ethan had announced his awakening. The one where he said, I need to explore polyamory with Mia. It's who I truly am. I hope you'll support my journey. Followed by, if you don't agree, I don't think this relationship can help me become my authentic self. And later, I think I'm falling for her again. And then his meltdown text after Mia rejected him. I made a mistake. Please close the relationship. Don't see anyone else. And finally, I'm not ready to lose you, but I don't want to stop exploring her. This is so hard for me. I selected all of them, created a small slideshow. Black background, white text bubbles, no commentary. Just the truth. Posted to my story with one caption. He asked to open their relationship. He chased his ex. She rejected him. Facts don't become lies just because they're embarrassing. Then logged off. No hashtags, no drama, no emojis. Just a mirror. A clean, sharp mirror. Within minutes, my viewer list exploded. Mutual friends who had ignored me for weeks suddenly went silent. A few sent oh wow messages. Ethan's sister DM'd me. He lied to us. His cousin, I'm so sorry, Lauren. This is humiliating for him. His mom, I didn't know the whole story. Thank you for clarifying. His dad, understood. Even Mia, yes, Mia, reacted with a single resigned wow. But the biggest shock came an hour later. My phone buzzed. A new message request. From Mia herself. I sat down on the couch and opened it. Mia. Hey, Lauren. I hope this isn't weird. I just wanted to clear something up. Ethan approached me about dating, and I shut it down immediately. I told him I wasn't interested and that he should work on his relationship instead of using spirituality as a justification for escaping it. I didn't know he'd use my name to push you into polyamory. I'm really sorry you got dragged into that. I blinked. Then another message popped up. Mia. And for what it's worth, I'm engaged. Happily. I never saw Ethan that way. Ever. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I laughed. A slow, disbelieving, cathartic laugh that came straight from the bottom of my ribcage. Ethan blew up our entire relationship, gaslit me, manipulated me, threatened my belongings, weaponized spirituality, and spiraled into victimhood. For a woman who was not only uninterested, but already planning a wedding with her fiancé. You can't write comedy better than real life. I typed back, Lauren, thank you for telling me, and congratulations on your engagement. Seriously. She replied with a heart emoji. That night, Jason picked me up for dinner. When I stepped outside, he smiled at me like the world wasn't complicated at all. You look incredible, he said. I smiled. Long day. He held out his hand. Not for show, not to claim me, just because. I took it. We walked to his car. As he opened the door for me, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. Calm, centered, certain. Not someone abandoned, not someone broken. Someone who finally stopped shrinking to fit someone else's spiritual delusion. Someone who finally chose herself. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt like I'd won something. Not him, not Jason, myself. Dinner with Jason that night was the first moment in weeks, maybe months, where my life felt like it belonged entirely to me again. The restaurant was one of those warm, dimly lit Italian places with deep red walls and old photographs hanging in mismatched frames. candles on the tables, soft jazz drifting from corner speakers. The kind of setting where nothing feels rushed. Jason listened when I talked. Really listened. Not the way Ethan used to, half distracted, waiting for his turn to insert a philosophical monologue from Mia's latest yoga sermon. Jason wasn't half somewhere else. He was present, engaged. When I told him about the sneaker room sabotage, the first time, the second time, he didn't call me dramatic or obsessive. He didn't roll his eyes. He didn't say, "They're just shoes." He said, "Someone touched your sanctuary. That's messed up. I'd lose it too." Do you know how rare it is for someone to understand the weight of your passions without questioning them? I didn't, not until that moment. We talked through dinner, dessert, and the walk back to his car. No tension, no pressure. Just two people whose lives had accidentally collided at the exact right moment. When he pulled up to my apartment building, he walked me to the front door. Not to prove something, not to be impressive, just because he was decent. "I had a really good time tonight," he said. "So did I replied. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "you can." He smiled, warm, sincere, nothing like Ethan's self-congratulatory smirks. Then he leaned forward slowly, giving me every opportunity to refuse, to step back. I didn't. Our kiss was gentle, unhurried, the kind of kiss that doesn't demand anything, the kind that feels like a quiet yes. When we pulled apart, he squeezed my hand once and headed back to his car. I watched him go. And for the first time since my relationship imploded, I didn't feel like I needed to prove anything. To Ethan, to the world, to myself. I simply felt okay. Ethan, however, was not okay. Not even close. The next morning, I woke up to 5 missed calls and a string of texts. "Ethan, can we please talk?" "Ethan, I saw your story. Why would you post that?" "Ethan, you're ruining my reputation." "Ethan, delete it, please." "Ethan, I'm begging you." I didn't reply. The truth doesn't need a debate. A few hours later, another text came, this time from an unknown number. "This is Ethan's mom. I owe you an apology." I stared at the screen, surprised. Then another bubble appeared. "I didn't know he had lied to us. Thank you for showing the screenshots. We're addressing this with him." Then, "I hope you find happiness, Lauren. You deserve it." I sighed. Not out of sadness, not even relief. Just finality. A chapter closing itself. But Ethan wasn't done. Not yet. Around noon, my buzzer rang. I checked the intercom. "Ethan." "Of course." I pressed the button and said, "No." His voice came through the speaker, strained. "Lauren, please, just 2 minutes. I just want to talk face to face." "No." "Please." "Ethan, you need to leave." Silence. Then, "I'm downstairs. If you don't buzz me up, I'll just wait." I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Then I spoke into the intercom, voice calm but sharp. "If you don't leave, I'm calling the building manager." Silence again, longer this time. Then the sound of the front door opening and closing softly. He was gone. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A DM request. From @MyaAuthenticFlow. I groaned. This woman again? But when I opened the message, it wasn't what I expected. Mia. "Hey, I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to know I talked to Ethan today. I made it clear he needed to stop using my name to justify his decisions. Also, he told me he threatened your sneaker room. That's not okay. I just wanted to tell you he's not stable right now, and I'm so sorry he dragged you through this. I didn't encourage him, at all. Mark and I wish you the best." She sent a selfie, her and her fiancé Mark at a food truck, both smiling, her showing her engagement ring. Cute, ordinary, real. Not whatever fantasy Ethan had spun in his mind. I typed back, "Lauren, thank you, and thank you for shutting things down clearly. I'm sorry he pulled you into this too." She sent a heart. I sent one back. And that was that. No drama, no cattiness, just 2 women acknowledging a mess neither of them created. I didn't hear from Ethan for 4 days. Then, that Sunday morning, he broke the silence. He posted a long message on Instagram, this time not about me, not even about polyamory. Just a vague, sad quote about rebirth and losing people who were never meant to stay. It didn't sting. It didn't annoy me. It didn't make me angry. It made me tired. Because it reminded me of all the emotional labor I did for months, years, trying to manage someone else's chaos. No more. I set my phone down and walked to the sneaker room, unlocked it, opened the door. Everything glowed softly in the morning light. Organized, untouched, peaceful. Mine. A quiet temple of patience and passion. My phone buzzed on the table behind me. A message from Jason. "Sneaker convention next Saturday. Want to go with me?" I smiled. Typed, "Absolutely." As I looked around the room, Something clicked inside me with sudden, luminous clarity. Ethan had wanted me to stay small because he was terrified of how big my world could be without him. He opened the relationship thinking he'd gain freedom. He lost me instead. He broke the rules thinking I'd bend. I didn't. And in the end, the truth wasn't complicated at all. I didn't lose anything. I found myself. And someone who sees me, really sees me, might just be the first person in my life worth letting in after the sneakers. 1 week after Ethan's meltdown, everything in my life had settled into a strange, unexpected steadiness. Jason and I had gone to the sneaker convention together, the kind of busy, nerdy, chaotic event where you can smell overpriced leather and excitement in the air. He wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't bored. He didn't pretend to care while secretly texting someone else under the table. He was present. He negotiated for a pair of 97 Air Maxes I'd been eyeing for months, smoothly, confidently, with a grin that made the reseller actually knock $40 off just because he liked Jason's enthusiasm. When he handed them to me, he said, "Couldn't let you walk away from these." And for a moment I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't the sneakers. It wasn't the price. It was the way he understood value, not just monetary, but emotional. He understood why this mattered to me. Ethan never had. He saw my collection as clutter. Jason saw it as a map. By Sunday evening, I was curled on the couch, sipping tea, half watching a documentary about vintage Nike factories. The apartment felt calm, warm, like a place where real life happens, not performance. Then, a buzz at my door. Not the building intercom, not the doorbell. A text. "Ethan, can we talk? I'm outside." I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course he would pick the worst possible moment, the quiet moment, the moment he no longer had access to. I typed back. "No." He didn't reply. I assumed he left. 5 minutes later, the buzzer rang. Loud, insistent, like a tantrum disguised as a doorbell. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. And again. Finally, I stormed over to the intercom, jabbed the button, and hissed, "Ethan, leave." "No." His voice cracked through the speaker. "Lauren, please. I need 5 minutes." "You had 3 years," I snapped. "You don't get 5 minutes now." "Please," he begged. "I can't move on unless I say this." I exhaled, then pressed the button and said, "You have 30 seconds. There was a pause. Then he spoke, desperate, trembling, his voice broken. "I'm sorry," he said. "For everything. For Mia. For the Poly thing. For the manipulation. For the sneaker room. For lying. For all of it." I said nothing. He kept going. "I was a mess. I was chasing someone who didn't want me and ignoring the person who did. I tried to make you small because I was afraid you'd outgrow me." I sucked in a breath. He'd never said it out loud before. "I know you won't take me back," he said softly. "And maybe you shouldn't. I needed you to know that I know I messed up. Badly." Silence. Then, "I hope someone treats you the way I should have." The voice wasn't manipulative, wasn't self-pitying, just honest. But honesty doesn't reverse damage. "Thank you," I said. "Now please leave." Another pause. Goodbye, Lauren." His footsteps faded, then quiet. Really quiet. The quiet of something unfixable finally, mercifully finished. I thought that was the end of it, of the drama, the unraveling, the shadow of Ethan in my life. But sometimes life surprises you, not with pain, but with closure. Real closure. Not the kind someone begs for. The kind that arrives on its own. 3 days later, I was at work when I got a notification. A DM, from someone new, a name I didn't recognize. I opened it. "Hi, Lauren, this is Jacob. I'm Ethan's coworker." Odd. I scrolled. "I just wanted to let you know Ethan took responsibility for everything today, in front of the whole team." My eyebrows shot up. He told us he lied about the breakup. He admitted he manipulated the situation. He said he was embarrassed and took things out on the wrong person. I paused. No excuses, no spiritual buzzwords, just accountability. He also said you didn't deserve any of what happened and that he hopes you're happy now. I sank into my chair, slowly, breathing out in a soft, astonished rush. Ethan? Public accountability? Voluntarily? The same man who once lectured me about emotional authenticity while trying to cheat ethically? That Ethan? Jacob sent one final message. "I don't know what happened between you two, but..." He looked lighter after saying it. Lighter. I sat there, staring at the message, letting it settle. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindictive. I didn't feel pity. I felt done. In a good way. The grief, the hurt, the betrayal, the chaos, all of it released. Not forgiven, just released. Because closure isn't about the other person. It's about no longer needing them to fix the wound they opened. That evening, I got back to my apartment, dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and walked to the sneaker room. My sanctuary. I unlocked the door. Soft lights glowed across the boxes. The air smelled faintly of leather and dust-free fabric. Clean, familiar, safe. I stepped inside, feeling the kind of calm most people only find in meditation retreats or deep forests. My phone buzzed. Jason, made dinner. Come over? I smiled, typed back. On my way. Before leaving, I turned off the sneaker room lights, closed the door gently, and locked it with a click. Not because I feared chaos anymore, but because some rooms, the best rooms, are meant to stay sacred. As I walked down the hall, the apartment felt impossibly light. Not because someone was gone, but because I was no longer holding up the weight they left. I didn't win because I found someone new. I won because I found myself. And as I stepped out the door to someone who chose me without conditions, a final thought flickered through my mind. When someone asks to open the relationship, they're rarely asking for freedom. They're asking for an escape with training wheels. Ethan opened the door. I walked out. He didn't expect I'd close it behind me, but I did. And it was the best decision I ever made.